Good morning. How you guys doing? Yes, my name is Courtney Morgan. I'm an attorney, and I represent Rochelle and Maurice Collins. Yesterday, our firm filed a whistleblower's lawsuit and related claims against the City of Detroit, Mayor Dave Bing, and Karen Dumas on behalf, as I said, of Rochelle and Maurice Collins. Our firm has the privilege and honor of representing Ms. Collins and her husband in this matter. Ms. Collins loved her job working in governmental affairs, and she loves the City of Detroit. She worked very hard on key issues that were important to the mayor, and he often touted her as someone who was a very valuable asset to his team. Unfortunately, Karen Dumas created a hostile work environment that has become legendary at City Hall. After Mayor Bing discharged his group executive in charge of corporate and civic affairs, someone that Ms. Collins worked for, our client became the target of Ms. Dumas's illegal behavior. The mayor of Detroit issued an executive order that stated there would be zero tolerance for workplace violence and hostile work environment, and that those who violated this executive order would be dealt with accordingly. Except we now know that Mayor Bing had a different set of rules for Ms. Dumas. When Ms. Collins reported a particularly hostile confrontation by Ms. Dumas, she was retaliated against and then terminated while on medical leave. Based on our investigation, we believe that the allegations in our complaint are truthful and that they will be corroborated by witness testimony and documents. We intend to litigate this matter vigorously on behalf of our clients. The truth will be told, and we believe that our clients will receive fair compensation for the physical, emotional, and financial damages they have suffered. And with that, we will now answer a few questions.
Ms. Collins, can you talk to us about your interactions with Ms. Dumas and why were they so contentious? Can you give us examples of what she did or said to you that you found particularly offensive?
For instance, after a meeting that we had in the mayor's office, she was upset and opposed to just leaving the situation. We had a disagreement. So opposed to just leaving the situation alone, she wanted to continue this argument in my office. I asked her to leave. She wouldn't leave. You know, she wanted to give me her side as to why I should do this or, you know, or what was my fault. And when I asked her to leave, she wouldn't go. And then I became upset and then asked her to leave again. She's standing in front of the door and she doesn't want to leave. You know, another instance is when she would ask me for information knowing that I sent it to her before. And then she'd say, well, I'm not receiving it. I didn't get it. I'm tracking the emails that I'm sending to you. I'm blind copying other people that I'm sending you these emails. She's constantly telling me, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this. Everything is just all screwed up. Everyone's telling me that you're not doing this. That's not, but you can't tell me who's telling her this. You know, it's always, it's your fault for this. Well, who's telling you this? What is it that I'm not doing? So, since instances like that.
At what point did you decide? At what point did you decide I want to file this lawsuit? And what was the final straw for you?
The final straw was when I was out on medical leave, and I sent the chief of staff an email letting her know that my doctor was going to extend my leave for an additional week, and she told me that there was a letter delivered to my home, and it involved my appointment in the mayor's office. So when I finally got to my house and opened the letter, I found that I was unappointed while out on medical leave. And I sat back and I thought about it, and I said, I did nothing wrong. You know, I had never had any complaints about my work product, or anything else. You know, the mayor had always, you know, indicated that I was a valuable asset to his administration over and over again. He even stood me up during a Christmas party at his home and indicated that I was a valuable asset to his administration and that he relied and depended on me. So for this to happen while I'm on medical leave, it threw me off. And I thought about it and said, with everything else that was going on, with the instances in the office with Ms. Dumas, it just wasn't right.
Was this more Ms. Dumas than Mayor Bang, or was it a combination of both of them?
Honestly, I think it was a combination of both. And the reason I say that is because he allowed it to happen. Ms. Dumas contributed to it, so it was a combination of both.
A lot of people are calling for Dumas' resignation, which we may hear about later today. Do you have any idea, could you explain from being in the office, the kind of, this wasn't just directed at you, was it? I mean, it sounds like there was a lot of other people who were victims of her personality as well.
Yes.
Could you describe a little bit what it was like working with her, and do you have any idea why she acted the way she did?
I think, well, for one, working in the office was hard, because if you didn't agree with Karen, then you had an issue. It had gotten to the point where Karen was involved in everything in the office, from the budget to what recreation departments were going to be closed, to economic, proposals that were brought in the city. And it became difficult, so people didn't want to speak up. They knew that if they spoke up and it was against something that Karen wanted, then eventually they were going to be gone.
How would you explain how Karen Dumas became so powerful in the administration?
To be quite honest, I don't know. I think it was after Kirk Lewis left, and having Karen there and being the communications director and spending time with the mayor, because as her position as being the communications director, maybe he gave her more responsibility and she interacted more with him. I really can't explain why.
Were you able to go to the mayor and say, look, I'm having a problem with Karen, can I talk to you? And he's the guy.
Yes. I did.
Did you do it more than once?
I did it, yes, I did it more than once. We spoke privately. We even spoke with Karen in the room and the chief of staff in the room. He asked that we resolve it, and at that time, he also indicated again that I was a valuable asset to his administration and that we needed to work it out. He knew that we were spread thin, but we needed to work this out. I made him a promise at that time that I would try my best to try and work with her. And I did. I did everything he asked of me and more.
We hear stories that besides you, she intimidated other people. She intimidated men as well as women. Was it more than just Karen Dumas doing her job? Did she have something personally going on that she was after, not only with you, but some of the other workers inside the mayor's office?
Did she have something personally going on with other workers? What do you mean?
Besides you and other workers, besides you, other workers too, because we're hearing allegations that she intimidated other staff workers, all the way up to Saul Green, Kirk himself. We're hearing these stories.
If you got on her bad side, then she was going to get you. That's just the bottom line. You did not get on her bad side. As long as you agreed with her and you went along with her program, you were fine. If you didn't agree with her, then you became the target of Karen Dumas.
There are some references in the lawsuit, although it's not directly mentioned, but you talk about her taking the trip to Washington that you felt it was unnecessary, that the mayor was always coming to her defense. Do you think that there was something more other than a professional relationship between these two that would explain why this was taking place?
No, I don't think so. And on that point, they indicated that I wrote that letter, and that anonymous letter, and I did not write that. I don't believe that there is a personal, other than friendship there. I don't believe that there's a...
I want it made clear that our lawsuit does not allege any such relationship between Ms. Dumas and Mayor Bing. In fact, our lawsuit alleges that Ms. Collins was falsely accused of having stated something about such a relationship. It's not part of our lawsuit.
I believe a statement was released by Ms. Dumas saying, referring to this lawsuit as a self-serving claim. When you hear that, you think what?
It's not self-serving. She's self-serving. I wanted to do a job. I've been working with the city for 21 years. I love my city, and I felt as though this was an opportunity for me to better myself and this city. I believed in Mayor Bing. I believed in the things that he wanted to do. This has nothing to do with me being I mean, this is crazy. You know, all I wanted to do was do my job. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. And I think I was doing a good job of it.
So you must have been shocked when they had this meeting with me and somebody else saying, hey, this is extortion. What was your immediate response to that?
I was shocked. I was, and hurt.
The notion that this is extortion is a complete and utter falsehood. We contacted the city pre-suit, which is something that is normally done. It doesn't happen perhaps in every case, but the Michigan Supreme Court has promulgated rules that encourage settlement. We were simply following the mandate of the Supreme Court that we try and avoid litigation, to resolve differences amicably, and these people these people then solicited from us a settlement demand. What is your demand? Now, they could have said, look, that's just too rich for our blood. We don't want to pay that kind of money without a lawsuit. Fine, we go forward. But you don't leak that to the press and say this is a claim for extortion. That is unprofessional. And we highly resent it. It's wrong. It has put our client in the limelight here where she never wanted to be.
You think Karen Dumas is behind this latest thing?
You'll have to ask Ms. Dumas that question.
The mayor has said that he has not been party to any attempt to become emergency financial manager of DPS for the city. Are you saying that you were there and that what he's saying is a lie?
I'm saying that I know for a fact that the city of Detroit was involved in the writing of that legislation and making sure that everything was in place so that the mayor could have control of the city of Detroit and DPS.
How do you know for a fact that we're doing on meetings where the legislation is perhaps proposed on the city's end or the state's end?
It was proposed on the state's end and drafts were sent to the city to review and input was given from the mayor's office.
And you saw this?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the governor's response where he denies this was ever a real issue? I mean, he was saying that from maybe really early on they were considering that it was never a serious issue. Is that how you saw it?
No. As it relates to Kirk Lewis becoming emergency financial manager, they were going to make an announcement, but it was just put off and put off. I actually completed the paperwork for Mr. Lewis to submit to the state for the background check for emergency financial manager and faxed it off. So it was not a suggestion. You know, the dates were just moved back and back and back because of some things that they wanted. And I think the emails would prove that.
What's the time frame for this? Was it like last year, 6 months ago?
Time frame for
The time
EFM?
frame for the legislation that would have been sent to the city to review and to the best of your recollection, you mentioned dates being pushed back.
For the legislation, that was first, because the legislation had to go through first. They started that because it was put on fast track. So they started that probably right after the election. They start talking about the EFM legislation. As for Kirk Lewis, that started after the legislation was passed, and I guess it all came to a head March 4th. Yes.
You've been with the city for 21 years, but what role did you play before the Bing administration? Were you in the Kilpatrick administration at all?
I've been in 5 administrations, not in the mayor's office. I worked in planning and development.
So how would you compare? I mean, obviously we've seen what happened with the Kilpatrick administration. As you said, you were, encouraged to work with Mayor Bing because of this promise of transparency and honesty. How would you compare those two administrations?
I think Mayor Bing, integrity, I think he has more integrity. than Kilpatrick. I think he can do the job. I think he's been sidetracked. You know, he's been distracted. I can't, that's like, this is personally, I think that's comparing apples to oranges, you know, Kilpatrick and Bing, you know.
Sidetracked by Dumas or sidetracked?
Sidetracked by Dumas and other things that are happening and the constant turnover in his administration. You know, it's like you can't concentrate on the day-to-day because it's things that are you're constantly losing key people. So you can't concentrate. So and I think that's an issue.
Do they leave because of Karen Dumas, or do they leave because they're just tired of what's going on within his administration?
I think it's been a combination of both because of Karen and things that are going on in the administration.
That includes Saul Green and
You'd have to ask Mr. Green about that.
You have been at the city for a long time. I've seen you there. Have you ever seen a communications director under any administration have as much authority and power as Dumas does under the Green administration?
No. No.
Even
Never.
Lockberg with Mayor Young?
No.
No.
And where do you think that comes from? Do you think it comes from her personality, Bing's personality? I mean, what do you think that's all about? I mean, is she that forceful and he perhaps more passive, or what?
I think he has a tendency to depend on people sometimes, and he depends on her for a lot, whereas he needs to depend on those individuals who have the expertise.
For people who haven't worked for her, how would you describe her as a manager?
For people who have not worked for her,
For Karen, yeah.
as a communications director,
Sure, yeah.
I think that she's okay. I think that we haven't gotten the mayor's message out in the community as it should be. I think she's always on the defensive. I think that she's controlling. She's a micromanager. And
Or even describing working for her, how would you describe to somebody what it's like to work for her?
stressful. It's stressful. It's working for someone if they're not sure as to what they know. It becomes very stressful because she doesn't know what she's asking for, so she'll ask for things and not sure as to what it is. It is very stressful.
Is that why you were out on medical stress?
Yes, stress and a combination of another medical ailment that I have.
Stress from work?
Yes.
How has that affected you, that whole experience, physically and emotionally?
I've cried a lot. You know how you start second-guessing yourself? And you start thinking you've done something wrong, and then you have to go back and say, I've done nothing wrong. My husband's squeezing my leg because I'm getting ready to cry. I'm not eating. I can't sleep. You know, this has really just rocked me. I can't tell you how this has affected me.
Anything else?
just go back quickly to the emergency manager thing. It sounds like, if I have this right, Bing was working behind the scenes to actually work on the legislation that would impact all cities? I mean, with the EFM thing?
Yes.
Okay, so there's probably some kind of communications out there that we would, that they have, I mean, there's probably some paper trail out there that they were actually working with the governor early on.
Mm-hmm.
Power of FOIA.
Rochelle, did that come, the impetus for that come from the governor's office wanting Bing to take control of the city and DPS, or did Bing go to the governor and say, well, let's get this done, put me in charge? Who led that off? Was it from Lansing or Detroit to get that started?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that was, I believe it was decided after a conversation that they'd had. And at that meeting, I was not there, so I can't say who, decided this is what we're going to do, but I know this is what they were going to do as it relates to the legislation.
In meetings, how adamant was Bing with staff that he wanted to have control over the city, which meant no city council, and control over DPS, which meant no school board? Did he talk to staff about, well, these are our long-term plans, this is what I want to get done, this is how it has to get done?
No, that was not something that he talked to staff about, because he didn't want it to get out. So he didn't talk to all of his staff about that. He only talked to certain people, which was Kirk, about that legislation. Those were the only ones, because Kirk was working directly with the governor's office.
He did talk with some state lawmakers.
Yes.
Which one?
I think it was Richardville, yeah. Richardville, Randy Richardville. I think it was Mr. Richardville.
Has it always, when did you start working with the mayor Bing? After he was first elected, or what point in his administration did you come in?
I've been with Mayor Bing for 2 years,
2
in
years
June.
now. Has the stress level and the push to get things done, how has it changed from the time you started to the time that your term ended?
When we first started, we had a mission, and we had a goal, and that was to stabilize the city and move us forward. It was like every day you came in, it was exciting, and we were moving forward, and things were getting done. And then it went from things getting done to people started leaving to, it was always an issue. And, I know you have to put out fires, but it just became very stressful, and it was like we were just spread thin, and then it was even thinner, and it was hard. By the time I left, it was hard.
You expect more people to leave?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Michelle, they're just going to say, if they were sitting here, if you were face-to-face with them again, would you have anything to say to them, to Mayor Bing and to Karen?
I can't tell you what. To Mayor Bing, I've always wanted to, even in our demands, all I wanted to know was why. That's it, just why. And I know you may think this is small, but it means a lot to me, because I value my work, and I just think I just want to know why. If I was a valued asset to your administration up until I left, what happened? Just tell me what happened. That's it, and you can't tell me that.
And to Karen?
I don't have too much to say to Ms. Dumas.
Are you open to a settlement, or do you want this to go to trial?
I think that the future will tell what's going to happen. I mean, obviously, we're only one half of the lawsuit, so I guess we're going to have to wait to hear from them.
Is there anyone in particular that left because of Karen Dumas?
It's been several people. You would have to, it's been several people that's left because of Karen.
We're not going to name names. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Come on.